Thank you. I'm glad to be here. My name is Ken Gude. I'm from the Center for American Progress in Washington, D.C. The Democratic Party is in a pretty strong place in this election cycle, but there are two main challenges, one short-term and one long-term. Of course, in the short term, we have the really big test of facing Donald Trump in the presidential campaign, a really unconventional kind of candidate that is promising to disrupt the American political system in a way that I think has never been presented before to the American people. And the real challenge for Democrats is we really have to win this election. The downside risks of a Trump presidency go beyond the simple issues related to conservative policy ideas of which we disagree, but the temperament of Donald Trump is just not suited to be the commander-in-chief of the American military and have not only his fingers on the nuclear button, but commanding the largest and strongest armed force the world has ever known. And his temperament just does not lead to any confidence that he would be able to handle that in a crisis. And so we really face a big test to win. Fortunately, the Democratic Party is now uniting behind Hillary Clinton, and we are in a strong place to win this election in November. But the downside risk of a Trump presidency is very, very high, and so we are working very hard to ensure that that doesn't happen. More long-term, the challenge that Bernie Sanders presented to Secretary Clinton during the primary has very strong positives. He was able to energize young people in a way and get them active and participating in an election, primary election, in ways that we hadn't seen in a long time. Very similar to what President Obama did in 2008, but more oriented towards policies very much geared towards the issues and the challenges that young Americans face. That's the positive. Unfortunately, there are real challenges that are associated with that because the solutions that Senator Sanders was proposing, while clearly they met the scale of the challenges that he identified, they are so wildly unrealistic in our political system that we risk alienating those very young people when, if Hillary Clinton is able to win the election, Democrats aren't able to deliver on some of those policies that this large group of young Americans is hoping we will be able to deliver on. It's just not in the realm of possibility, even if Democrats were able to take control of both the Senate and the House. Those ideas are just not feasible in our political context right now. It's always good to have goals, it's always good to be ambitious, but we don't want to create expectations that are just unrealistic. And how we balance that in the future, how we keep this large group of young Americans energized and focused on working towards generating these kinds of progressive solutions, but still not able to attain the heights that Senator Sanders seemed to be promising, is the challenge for Democrats going forward. The Center for American Progress is a relatively new think tank. It was founded in 2003. We are the only cross-issue progressive institution in the United States. While we are clearly on the center-left in the ideological spectrum, and our views align more often with the Democrats than anybody else, we are not formally associated with the Democratic Party. So there is an independence between what the Center for American Progress does and thinks and what Democratic elected officials, what Democratic members of Congress, and their objectives and priorities. So there is that difference. But what we do is we generate the progressive substantive issue agenda. We work across issues from national security and foreign policy, which is the areas in which I work on, energy, environment, the economy, a whole host of domestic policy issues, immigration, healthcare, education. We really try and be a one-stop shop for the progressive issue agenda. But we also believe that in today's environment, in Washington at least, it's not good enough to just have good ideas. So we invest very heavily in the communications and promotion side of our work so that we inject those ideas directly in the day-to-day policy and political debates that are going on in Washington and around the world. So we have, for example, our own blog. It's called Think Progress. It started in 2005. It now gets 7 million unique visitors a month, which is on a par with the sites like Politico or Huffington Post, which you may be more familiar with. So we take a new way, we take a new approach to trying to communicate our ideas with the American people. We also very heavily invest in traditional communications and media shop. We have our own television studio, we have our own radio studio, we have a group of bookers who try and get Center for American Progress staff on television, or allied progressive talkers on television. So we were really out there pushing our ideas. So we develop the agenda, and we really try and aggressively push and promote it into the political cycle in Washington.